The thing you most need to say is the thing you are most afraid to say. That's not a motivational quote. That's a diagnosis. Because most of us are not living quiet lives. We are living loud ones, full of noise, full of motion, full of other people's urgency. And somewhere under all of that noise, there is a voice, yours. And it has been trying to reach you for years. When was the last time you sat in silence long enough to hear what you actually think? Not what your job needs you to think. Not what your family expects you to think. Not what the algorithm decided to show you today. What you think, what you want, what you were put here to do. If that question made you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the voice knocking. What I'm about to share might be the most important thing you hear this year. Don't look away. His name was Elias, 42 years old, professional ghostwriter. For 17 years, he had given other people's ideas the words they deserved. Business books, memoirs, speeches. He'd written a bestseller that sold 400,000 copies under someone else's name. He was brilliant at his work. Clients called him a miracle. Awards sat on a shelf in his home office, awards with other people's names on them. Every morning, Elias sat at his desk and found the words for someone else. Every evening, he closed the laptop and went to sleep without writing a single word for himself. He had been doing this for 17 years. On a Tuesday morning in November, Elias sat across from a new client, a 30-year-old tech founder who'd built something real, smart, driven, absolutely unable to articulate why he did what he did. That was Elias's job. Find the why, give it language. So he asked the question he always asked. What is the thing you believe that most people are afraid to believe? The founder thought for a long time, then answered. Elias wrote it down, shaped it, elevated it, handed it back across the table. The founder read it and said, "Yes, that's exactly it. That's what I've been trying to say my whole career." Elias smiled, said he was glad, drove home, sat in his car for 30 minutes, because somewhere on the drive, a question had followed him home like something he couldn't outrun. What is the thing you believe that you've been afraid to say? And he had no answer. Not because nothing came to mind, but because what came to mind terrified him more than any blank page ever had. What Elias found in that car, and what he did with it, is the entire story. Stay with me. Here is something I want you to sit with. There is a difference between being busy and being called. Busy is loud. Busy fills the calendar. Busy has meetings and deliverables and the satisfaction of motion. Being called is quiet. It doesn't announce itself in boardrooms. It whispers in the car, in the shower, at 3 a.m., in the gap between what you do and what you know you were meant to do. The tragedy is not the people who never hear the call. The tragedy is the people who hear it perfectly and spend their lives building walls of busyness to pretend they don't. That night, Elias did something he hadn't done in 17 years. He opened a blank document, not for a client. He typed the question at the top of the page. What is the thing I believe that I've been afraid to say? And then he sat there for 45 minutes, not writing, just being with the question. Then, one by one, things began to surface. Beliefs he'd held for decades and never spoken. Observations about the world that he'd filed away as not his place to say. Things he'd given other people the words for that had originally come from him. He wrote for 3 hours. He didn't stop to edit, didn't stop to judge, just let the voice, his voice, run. At 2 in the morning, he stopped, looked at what was on the screen, and thought, who wrote this? And then, quietly, I did. Over the next 6 months, Elias kept 2 separate lives. By day, he was still the ghostwriter, showing up, performing, delivering the excellence they paid for. But every morning, for 1 hour before the client work began, he wrote for himself. No audience, no brief, no approval needed. just the accumulation of a voice that had been waiting for 17 years to speak. There were hard mornings. Mornings when the inner critic sounded louder than the inner voice. Who are you to have something original to say? You're a translator, a vessel, a craftsman, not a creator. But he kept showing up, 1 hour, every morning, no exceptions. What happened when Elias finally shared his words with the world is something no one expected, least of all him. After 6 months, he had 80,000 words. Not a ghost, not a draft for someone else, a manuscript. His. He sent 20 pages to a literary agent he'd worked with for a decade. The agent called him the next morning. "Elias, I've been waiting for this. I didn't even know I was waiting for it. But this is you. This is the voice that was behind all the others. This is the book." He didn't say anything for a long time, because the loudest room in the world had finally gone quiet. Here are 3 things Elias's story teaches us that you can use starting today. 1. Busyness is not purpose. It is often its substitute. The fullest calendars sometimes belong to the most purposeless lives. Schedule 1 hour a week, just one, where you produce something that belongs entirely to you, not for an outcome, for the accumulation of your own voice. 2. The inner critic speaks loudest right before the breakthrough. The voice that says, "Who are you to do this?" is not wisdom. It is fear dressed in the language of reason. The difference between those who create and those who don't is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to write the next line anyway. 3. Your unlived life is not behind you. It is beside you. Elias was 42 when he began. The years of silence had been filling a reservoir. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from everything you have ever observed, felt, and understood. That is not nothing. That is the whole foundation. Elias's book was published 18 months later. It was not a bestseller, not immediately, but something happened that had never happened in his career. Strangers wrote to him, not to his clients, not to the name on the cover, to him. They wrote to say, "I didn't know there was a word for what I felt until I read your book." They wrote to say, "I've been living the ghost of my own life, and this made me want to stop." One letter came from a woman who said she had been a ghostwriter too, for 11 years, and that after reading his book, she had finally started writing her own. There's a kind of permission that only comes from watching someone else finally choose themselves. He had been waiting for permission for 17 years, and all along, he was the one who had to give it. The loudest room in the world is the one inside you where the thing you haven't said yet lives. You know what it is. You've always known. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a business. Maybe it's just the truth you've been swallowing every time someone asks how you're doing. Drop the word voice in the comments right now, as a declaration, as the beginning of something. And if these stories speak to something real in you, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because this community exists for exactly one kind of person, the one who is finally ready to stop writing other people's stories and start living their own. The next story is already here.